Honored attendees, welcome to the F3F Inclusive Tech Summit. Today's keynote speaker is known as the godfather of tech. He is a renowned expert in AI, blockchain, and immersive tech. Currently, a pioneering professor for innovation and tech at the University of Michigan, he holds multiple roles as a fractional CTO for cutting-edge startups. Please welcome Professor Timothy Bates.
Oh. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm kind of happy to be here in Orlando on a holiday, which is kind of strange, but for me, it's okay. So we're going to talk about AI today. I like to do an interactive type speech, so if you guys have questions, feel free to raise your hand if I can see you, because the light is in my eyes. But we're going to talk about AI and the bias. How many here people believe that AI is going to take your job in the next 5 to 6 years? Anybody? Good, because AI is nowhere near close to taking any jobs for the next 10 to probably 20 years. And that's mainly because what happens is AI cannot solve half of the problems humans can't even solve when it comes to mathematics. There are mathematical equations that AI has yet to solve, and there's some that we've solved that they haven't solved. And the reason they can't solve it is because it takes a little bit of human ingenuity, creativity, a way that we think from a human standpoint that AI has not learned yet. That's one thing I wanted to make sure that people understand, that no, it's not going to take your job unless you're doing something from a labor standpoint. If you look at what's going on over the last few months, basically UPS, BMW, and several other organizations, just like Amazon, has already started putting robots in place, humanoid robots that can mimic exactly what humans do. And the reason that is happening is because of Gen AI. And about 3 years ago, before Gen AI started picking up, it took weeks and months to program a robot in a plant. Today, it takes literally 5 to 10 minutes. I talk to my computer, and next thing you know, all the code, 16 pages or 20 pages of code to control those robots, is up and running. So if you're doing labor work, it's time to upskill and start using the other muscle, not the arms, but this muscle. And that's what I'm here to talk about, especially for a lot of our black and brown people out there. It's important that we start looking at things from a different point of view and not looking at it from what we've been doing for the last 100 years, which is entertaining, sports, and things like that. All of these labor jobs will change, and it's time for us to upskill. Now, let's talk about why AI is biased. Anybody have any ideas why it's biased today? Yes. Well, the data, like she said, the young lady said, the data sets are biased. And if you look at what OpenAI has done over the last few years, they've opened up a database or a large language model and ingested information from all around the world. Now, when I say that, it doesn't sound strange until I start breaking it down to what's around the world. We have different cultures, we have different countries, we have different laws. We have different languages. Here in North America, we have at least 25 different languages when you start talking about English. And just the way we talk in different, cities and different areas within different, groups and cultures within a city. And so when you do that, and you think about all of the data being ingested inside of a model, you're going to end up exactly what we always end up with, which is war. And we see that happening today around the world today. We don't get along with each other. So how do we expect data inside of a database to get along with itself? Especially with the way we've designed these different models, which is basically a model with no access controls, no boundaries on how the AI pulls that information out of that particular model. That's why when I look at AI and I go to OpenAI and I say, hey, you know what? I'm going to ingest my entire 30, 40 years of experience into the AI. And then I said, okay, what color am I? What race am I? What race do you guys think I am as far as OpenAI thinks? Any guesses? I wish. No, I'm white. It came right out and drew a picture of me as a white person that had all this background and everything else, because it's not possible for the AI to think that an African American could do the things that I've done. Okay? And that's because of the developers who program this. That's why I'm actually trying to get around the world and tell people around the world that in order for black and brown people to see a change in the bias in AI, it's time for us to get involved. If we're not involved, it's not going to change because AIs are built on data. And if we're not putting our data in, then it has no reason or understanding on what we know or what we believe from an African American standpoint, Ghana, Nigeria, you name any other country outside of European countries, that's why it's doing exactly what it's doing, because we're not involved. Now, what you hear today is AI is wrong, it's broken, don't use it, it's got bad information. Well, don't worry about those things. The bad information is something that you need to do from a human standpoint and to be able to think about the difference between what's real and what's not when you get information out. But the algorithm that AI is built on works, okay? So in 10, 20 years, it'll be fine, but it won't be fine for us if we don't get involved. We're gonna be left behind like we've been left behind on the internet. When the internet started, when I was in the 70s, late 80s, I was on the internet when I was 13 years old. I don't know if that was in my bio or not. I started at 13, recruited by the U.S. Marshals as a black hat hacker, and created the security industry. All of my friends around the world at that time were either Japanese, Chinese, and European. I didn't have any friends in Africa because they weren't on the internet back then. And at that time, I wished a lot of my brothers and sisters were actually on the internet. But what they doing, they were laughing at me because I was sitting behind a computer all day, every day. Instead of playing football or basketball, I was programming, having fun. Years later today, I'm a professor, I've had a distinguished career, but when I look across the table, I never see anybody the same color as me. I can sit in meetings at General Motors as a distinguished fellow, the 1% of that corporation, and it was usually just me as a person of color. Why? Because we seem to think that basically, technology is wrong, or not wrong, but too hard. STEM is not hard. STEM is very easy. When it comes to science, technology, and engineering and math, it has become so easy, it's become democratized with AI. That's one of the things that AI is doing for us today. It's basically giving us the ability to catch up with everybody else. If you look at a person that has a doctorate in any type of subject, that AI, if it's programmed right, in the next 10 to 15 years, will be able to give you that information at a moment's notice. That's scary to anybody that spent 20, 30 years educating themselves to take money, use that education to make money off of individuals that don't. So when AI starts giving that democratized capability, wouldn't you be afraid if you're a rich doctor or a rich lawyer or anyone else that says, hey, nobody needs to come to me anymore. They can come to get a validation, but now AI can actually answer those questions. Now, I'm not talking today, I'm still talking 5 to 10 years from now, once the AI is basically programmed properly, and of course we get involved so it understands what, it means to be African American, what does it mean to be from Nigeria or any other country of color from that standpoint. So that's the difference between, why bias is why it is what it is. We have to actually start understanding how to put in these AIs culture, language, the different languages that we have, the nuances around the human condition. Anybody understand what the human condition is or what I mean by that? The human condition is basically how we look at things every day of our lives. Okay, a good example is jaywalking in a city is technically illegal. But how many people here jaywalk every day? We all do. Because in this time of day, jaywalking is a frivolous crime. No cop in their right mind is going to arrest you for jaywalking. But if you go back 50, 60, 70 years, 100 maybe, that jaywalking law could put you in jail. AI doesn't understand the context of the human condition on how we change things, even though we write them down. One that you really will make you think is, we have this whole thing around the people of different genders, okay? Do you know that sodomy is illegal in a lot of states on the east coast of the country? But yet those are laws that are in place. How can we have what we have in this gender equality environment if we have a law on the books that says you can't do this, okay? Thing is human condition again. We look at that law and we say, hey, we want to be a lot better. We want to be better than we were when we created the law, and we ignore it. How can an AI ignore a law that we put in place? Computers think in binary, 0 and 1s, not 0, 1, and maybe. And so again, that's why you have all the bias going on, and it's important for us to be able to get involved, change that bias. It's also important for us to get involved with how do we train the human condition into an AI. That's when we will get to a point where AI will become a normal AI that can work for everyone. And so that's why I say it's 10 to 20 years from now where you'll see these things happening. Maybe 30, who knows? If we decide to grow up and become responsible for what we're creating from a technology standpoint. And we can always blame, was that California? I was out there a couple of weeks ago, about a month ago talking, and it's, they need to think about what the entire world looks like, not just their little circle that they're in. That's why we're getting some of the things that we're getting. So, anybody have any questions? Come on, guys. This is a big room with a whole bunch of people in here. No one has any questions around AI. What?
Okay. How do you think that AI has perpetuated the wealth gap between African American and their white counterparts?
Well, the reason it's doing that is very simple, okay? Anyone here know what GitHub is? You know what open source is? Do you use open source? 90% of our people don't, because they think it's stealing. They think it's cheating. They think it's not basically something that they can use. Open source, when we created it back in the early 70s, 80s, was built to widen or lessen that gap, okay? That's why we see an explosion in all these AI companies, which are pretty much all white. You don't see any black companies popping up, because from their standpoint, they have to create it from ground up. If you look at what OpenAI is doing, it is an open source model. You can grab that model just like anyone else and start doing work. You look at Stable Diffusion, same thing. It's an open model. You can use those models if you want to create your company. The rules around open source is really down to the point of you take the source and you modify it for what you're going to do with it. No, you just can't take it directly from GitHub, but you can take that and use it as a pillar to start from. Okay, that means we're growing on other people's shoulders, which is fine. That's the problem that we have right now within the industry. African Americans don't understand that they can use that open source legally to create a company, where when you go out to California and talk to anybody out there, it's all the same stuff. If you look at any of the any VCs, they don't know this, and that's why they've been losing a lot of money also on a lot of AI companies, because it's just a whole bunch of AI washing. Okay? AI washing is the ability to create something that looks like AI that's not AI, which takes me to the next thing that we can talk about. AI washing is when you see a company just taking something that OpenAI did, or something that Stable Diffusion or any of the companies, and put something on top of it to make it look like it's doing something crazy. Today my blender has AI built into it. Not understanding why it needs AI, but it does have AI. It's a new sales pitch. It's the newest, bright, shiny thing in the media. Other things, if you really want to see AI and you want to understand how it really works, watch the autonomous vehicles. OpenAI and all these other companies think they're going to get through to the next generation of AI, and it's not going to happen in the form of a generative AI. Where it's going to happen is with machine learning with a vehicle, or something like a vehicle. When you think about how those vehicles are driving today by themselves, they're actually making decisions. They're actually trying to integrate with us as humans and understand the nuances on the road when they're driving, when they're moving around the different cities. As they understand those nuances, that's being reinforced in its memory and training. Gen AI does not work that way. Gen AI technically is like a decision tree, for next loop with a whole bunch of different answers in it. And when you look at the 300 billion or 400 billion type of parameters that you hear on top of every AI that's announced, it's just a larger decision tree. And everything with decision trees, if I have any programmers out here, you know that they always end somewhere, okay? They don't continuously learn and come back. Now, there's been some changes over the last week from OpenAI with 4.0. Maybe we might see something there, maybe we may not. I don't know until we start using it. But I can tell you right now, basically, it's still just a decision tree. It's not anything like the machine learning that we see inside of vehicles or any of the other systems that we've used for the last, 20 years, I said 20 years because I want everybody to know here that AI is not new. Only generative AI is new. And generative AI is a way of interfacing with humans. And it loops me right back to what I said before. It's a way of democratizing knowledge and explaining things to you in a way that you can understand it. If you look at OpenAI or any of the other tools that are out there, just ask the question, and when you ask that question, say, if you're a plumber, tell me that answer in a way that a plumber would understand it. And the AI will take a surgery, it will take, a complex surgery like neurosurgery and explain it to you like a plumber, which is kind of weird, but it's useful because that's where it's the most important thing about AI, or this Gen AI is. It's going to help all of us understand how to talk to one another, okay? And like I said, we all speak different languages, depending on education, where you're born, where you grew up, et cetera. And basically, that's what keeps us all separated. When you use AI as a natural translator, it can help you with that. It can help you understand your neighbor or understand the person down the street that looks like you can't even speak English, even though they do speak English. They might speak Ebonics. AI can translate that for you. So that's why I look at AI today, this generation that we have, that's out today, which is more of a democratized way for us to, one, communicate with each other, and two, to help us understand things that we don't understand today without spending 4 years or 5 years in a university. Okay? Any other questions? Yeah.
Yes. You are working in immersive technology. I'm very interested in augmented and virtual realities, and I was wondering how you're using AI for, what kind of immersive tech and where you see it going in the future.
Okay, well, I'll talk about my doctoral thesis, which is on AI, immersive technology, as well as Web3, blockchain. Most people don't like the word blockchain, but I can explain to you that blockchain is not a bad thing. NFTs and cryptocurrency is a bad thing. Those are just jokes, if you ask me. But the work that I've done over the last, starting in 2009, using immersive tech, basically we use AI to help train people. So one of the things we did with an engine called Unreal, we created mixed reality, Unreal type activities on the plant floor. So on the plant floor, I worked at General Motors, and it helped train individuals as they went along to do their jobs. So instead of spending 4 to 5 weeks in a training course, someone working on the floor or in the plant, now they put on a set of glasses, and it starts to train them on how to assemble different parts of a vehicle. It also trains them on how to improve on those types of assemblies, so that if they're making it, they're pulling it out of a box the wrong way or out of a band the wrong way, AI watches those things and tell them, yeah, you should unroll it this way or pull it this way and then plug it in this way. Maybe you use your fingers, maybe you use a tool. That's where AI came in handy for me back, like I said, 10 years ago. And I believe, well, I won't say I believe because I know, over the last 10 plus years, GM has spent or saved over $400 billion in basically cost avoidance. And that was with training, as well as with other things that the iterative design process. So when you think about like a vehicle, when we build a vehicle, it's usually built, physically. So everybody here knows that GM is just an original equipment maker. They don't actually make the parts for the car. They design and engineer them. But those parts go out to all first, second, and third party vendors out in the world. Anytime they make it and they think about it, it's like, okay, push it out, and then it comes back as a piece, a part. That part is nothing but useless after they finish testing it. When they figure out that it works or it doesn't work, it goes in the trash. So from an environmentally standpoint, it's a big waste. Okay, so with immersive technology, what we started doing was doing everything virtually or immersively. So one of the things happened during COVID. We were starting to build, right before COVID, we were building the, Corvette, the newest Corvette that you see driving around the road. We got to a point where we couldn't build the convertible Corvette because we didn't do any testing on the vehicle with that pre-prototyping up front. We figured it's the same car, what the heck, we'll just push it out. Well, when we did that and they started building that convertible, the people in the plants could not assemble it. Put their hands through the honeycomb or anything else within the car and pull the wires properly. So they shut down the plant to the tune of millions until we fixed the problem. What we learned from there is that, well, we don't have to do this physically anymore. We can do it all virtually. And so now we use 8 stations with 8 people, physical people with headsets on, and they assemble those cars digitally, saving on the environment, saving on waste and everything else, and able to speed up the iterative design process. Okay, you had a question over here? Say again?
What do you think about AI being applied to the military, like Israel is using right now in Gaza?
Being a veteran myself, I think it's probably too early, mainly because we don't understand AI ourselves. And we're rushing into a dark room using a sharp knife and not knowing who we're going to cut with it, okay? People worry about AI taking over. No, it's not going to take over until we get people in the military or organizations starting to think how to push it to its limits to do things that we don't want to do. You know, one of the things about war that people really don't understand is war is about two organizations fighting with each other because they have different opposing opinions. That war is won based on how many bodies show up at the end of the war. You know, that's just the way it works, okay? It's stupid, it's crazy, but that is how a war is won, you know? How do you do that with robots? How do you do that with computers or AI? You know, AIs and robots can fight for decades or years or until they, fall apart or we stop building them. That's the problem I see with AI being used or robots being used on the battlefield. It's a human thing. If we're going to fight, we might as well fight ourselves. If we start putting robots and computers in the place of us, then we'll never stop fighting until we run out of resources. And if we run out of resources, that means we even destroy the earth. So it's a double-edged sword. Any other questions? None? Come on, guys. You got me up here. I got 40 years of experience. I've worked in multiple different industries. Is there another one? I can't hear you.
So how do we incentivize the next generation to upskill themselves to be prepared, to be competitive in the landscape of AI technology? You talked about years ago, like one two, and that trend may or may not have changed. Now, what are your thoughts on how we incentivize to help you to be a part of that?
Right. Okay. It's a good one. I believe that basically in order to upskill, we need to get involved. And we need to stop being afraid of the word STEM because it's not as hard as it looks like. It's not as hard as it used to be. Science, math, and technology, when I got into it, I was doing binary code and machine code and everything else, which is, if I ever showed it to you, if you ever seen it, you'd be like, oh, my head is going to blow up, or whatever. In this case, today, this generation now has the ability to program anything that they want, anywhere they want, anytime that they want, because what we have on the plate is low code, no code. Most people haven't heard of that. Even when I started at university a couple of months ago, I'm talking to my colleague professors. They looked at what's low code, no code. Low code, no code is a way of developing applications from scratch or to a point where users can use them without ever writing any actual machine code or language code. No Python, no, any other type of scripting, no C++, no C#. All you're doing is basically putting together boxes. So when I say boxes, if you like to put jigsaw puzzles together, you love low code, no code. Why did the industry created low code, no code is because engineers, designers, doctors, you name it, they don't go to school to program, but yet they depend on computers and systems to do the things that to give them analytical applications or everything else. We don't have enough programmers, so that's why they created low code, no code. This allows an individual to put together an application, prototype it, and run it within a matter of days. If they like to put puzzles together, because all of the detailed modules that we write code for or write applications based on are just boxes. It has nothing to do with programming anymore. It's just, hey, I want an input. I grab that box. I connect it to another box. I want to generate a graphic. You see, Gen AI can draw graphics for you within a matter of seconds of you just talking to it. And so everything around Gen AI, low code, no code, is something that African Americans or anybody who wants to be ready for this next regime in technology should be getting involved with today. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
All right, good. Anything else? Anyone else?
You and I spoke, we talked about some of the innovations that you were doing, even in New York City tunnels. Explain to everybody a little bit about what used to be the mail system and how that mail system now being elevated to where AI is going to bring back some of the things that were actually foreign, but now they're more useful now. Tunnels under New York City. Explain what that means and how you told me about this.
Oh, I think you're talking more about the tubular work? Okay. So one of my companies that I advise is called Tubular Network. One of the things that we've been trying to solve a problem with, which we did, which is the last mile. Every Amazon truck, every UPS truck, everything that we use to deliver products or packages to our homes today is actually impacting the environment. It's tearing up the roads because we got more cars moving. It's also messing up the ecosystem because it's more combustion vehicles. In this case, what we're trying to do, what everybody's trying to figure out is that last mile. How do we get packages, produce, or anything else to customers as well as warehouses? So what we've done at Tubular Network is basically taking a tube, a pneumatic tube with a robot platform in it, underground or above ground, and that actually delivers packages back and forth. It's not a novel idea because we used to use this back in, the 60s and the 70s. If you go to New York, you go to any major city, New York, Detroit, Chicago, not sure about LA, but most major buildings, you'll go and see a mail slot on the wall. And that mail slot normally isn't used anymore, but it was used with air pressure, so that you could actually push a package or an envelope from one building to another. In the heyday, those systems used to deliver packages within seconds, from downstate New York, upstate New York, especially when it came to the stock exchange. But they were problematic. When the air pressure went down, nothing moved. And so we abandoned that when the USP office, actually it's a funny story, the owner of the USPS, or whoever it was, the person who ran it, their daughter married basically Ford. And when they married Ford, they brought in all the Ford mail trucks because of that pneumatic problem. Going back after that story, back to Tubular Network, this particular robotic platform delivers the parts with no human intervention, no emissions, and basically within seconds to the plant. And if you understand how plants work, they're always dependent on just-in-time getting devices. And when that happens, you have multiple different trucks, multiple different organizations trying to do that. And what we've done is put this particular product or solution in place in order to remediate that issue. Okay. Said it?
Can you clarify what you just said? Are you now using previous tubes in order to meet?
The plan is to use those previous tubes also. Today, we're actually built extra tubes. So if you think about like mail that comes in or packages that come in from Canada to Detroit, tubes are under the water. That basically ships those packages through old, train station or trains tunnels, removing the ability for people to actually drive trucks and cars across the bridge, which is, we're actually building a second bridge because of all the commerce that's going back and forth. Our tubes basically is removing that stress off of both the new bridge and the old bridge because we can able to move packages a lot faster. The older tubes that are in these buildings are being retrofitted for smaller robots that will basically deliver the packages to those different areas using those old tubes. If the tubes don't already exist? Oh, no. The Canada one's already there. It's an old rail station. There are 3 tunnels between Detroit and Canada, and 2 are abandoned. They were abandoned, not being used anymore because they shut down trains for carrying packages back and forth. We just reactivated those tubes for that purpose. The other thing is Elon Musk's boring company is also an investor in our company, so we're planning on using even more of the boring company to create more of those, tubes. Just like we're working on something over in Alaska, in order to prevent the impact on the Alaskan environment with trucks going across. You've probably seen it on Netflix on how hard it is, trucks going across the ice and everything else. It's cheaper, easier, and faster to put a tube across the ice, no more trucks, no more impact to the environment. Does that answer your question? Okay. Yes. Oh, flying cars? They're already here. You haven't been watching news? Oh, the mass, that's a different story. Probably in the next 5 years. FAA just approved last year the ability to fly, we call it VTOLs, which are called vertically takeoff and landing vehicles. If you're in California, you're probably seeing some of these things. If you were in Detroit at the auto show, there's at least 5 there. 2 of those companies have actually taken residents down in Indiana, and they're going forward with their vehicles. Today in China, for the last 4 years, they've been using air taxis to go back and forth across their, the channel. So it's here. It's just a matter of for us to figure out how we're going to use it, or some millionaire to figure out how they're going to make money on it. Yeah. China is a little bit more risk adverse than we are here in America, and it does go down to the money. It goes down to, if I'm going to invest $1 million or $10 billion, there's got to be a ROI, a return on that investment. Even when you talk about Musk and Tesla, it's all about that return on investment, and it takes time to get there, and you have to have that vision to see. The millionaire has to have that vision to see, can we really get there? But when you talk about VTOLs, it's already happening. You know, it's scary about the VTOLs because now that they're available, you know, you can buy a VTOL for less than $10,000, and you don't need a license to fly one. That's scary. You know, it's like a moped. It's like a trike or anything else. We've never put in laws to put in licensing for these devices, and now you're going to have people flying, you know, 10 feet, 40 feet, or 100 off the ground in these single prop or single man type vehicles as a VTOL. No regulation. Yes. One more question?
My fear is this, there's no regulation in the Congress and Senate, they move too slow. So what dangers do you foresee coming?
The same dangers that we saw with the Segways and everything else. First, we had the problem with the batteries coming in from other countries that didn't have the right chemicals in them. Then they're blowing up planes or blowing up different things different ways. You also have people, again, that haven't been trained properly. Can you imagine a 12-year-old who has money, and in this case, a lot of 12-year-olds, 10-year-olds are into Bitcoin, so they have more money than most of us. That's a scary point. And they're going to go out and buy these new toys, you know. And when they buy these new toys, they will be in the air flying them around. Now, if there's no regulations to control that, that's where we're going to see lots of other issues. So, yep. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Professor Bates.
Yep.
You have us thinking about the future, which can create all kinds of visions. Let's take a quick look at one now.